On Thursday, November 14th, at exactly 2:03 in the morning, my daughter sent me a text message that would change everything between us. Mom, it's best if you don't join us for the trip to Silver Palm Resort next month. Tyler's parents are coming and there's just not enough room for everyone. I hope you understand. I'm Vivian Bennett. I'm 62 years old and I've been a widow for 3 years. When I read that message, I didn't cry. I didn't call her back in anger. I simply replied, I understand, sweetheart. Have a wonderful time. Then I made myself a cup of chamomile tea and decided to do something I'd been putting off for far too long. You see, what Maya didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Silver Palm Resort wasn't just some fancy Caribbean vacation spot. It was mine. Every palm tree, every infinity pool, every one of those 312 luxury suites belonged to me. And that penthouse suite she'd be staying in? I designed it myself, specifically for family gatherings. My name is Vivian Elizabeth Bennett, and this is the story of how I discovered that sometimes the people who think they know you best are the ones who see you least clearly. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end. Because what started as a painful exclusion became something much more complicated. A test of love, loyalty, and what we truly value in the people we call family. Let me tell you what that text message really meant to me. Silver Palm Resort sits on the island of St. Celeste in the Eastern Caribbean. 6 oceanfront restaurants, 3 infinity pools, accommodation starting at $1,200 per night. I bought it 4 years ago for $12 million and spent another $8 million renovating it. But as I stared at my daughter's text, none of those facts mattered. What mattered was this. Maya was telling me there wasn't room for me at my own resort because she was embarrassed of me. For most of Maya's childhood, I was what people politely call working class. My husband James, a Chicago police officer, died when Maya was 4, a case of mistaken identity. The life insurance barely covered his funeral. I was 26 with a 4-year-old and $2,347 in our checking account. So I worked 3 jobs. 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Stella's Diner on the South Side, 2 to 8 p.m. as a dental receptionist, nights and weekends cleaning houses in the suburbs. My hands stayed raw from chemicals. I developed arthritis in my knees before 40, but Maya never went without. When she needed braces, I picked up extra clients. When her class went to Washington, D.C., I sold my grandmother's handmade quilts to cover the cost. For college, I worked at every holiday and weekend for 4 years, building her tuition fund dollar by dollar. I wanted her to have everything I never had. And it worked. She graduated from Northwestern with honors, never working during school. But somewhere along the way, something changed. It started when Maya met Tyler Ashford her sophomore year. He came from what Maya called a good family, wealthy and white. His parents, Catherine and Robert, were retired professors with a summer home in Michigan and annual European trips. Before Tyler's first visit to our Hyde Park apartment, Maya pulled me aside. Mom, when you meet Tyler, maybe don't mention Stella's Diner or the houses you clean. Just focus on the receptionist job. It sounds more professional. That request hurt more than any physical pain I'd endured. But I said, whatever makes you comfortable, sweetheart. I met Catherine and Robert Ashford at a pre-wedding dinner. Catherine wore pearls and carried a handbag worth more than I'd made in a month at the diner. Maya tells us you work in customer service? Catherine asked, her voice dripping with charitable politeness. I'm a medical office receptionist, I replied, using Maya's coached wording. I didn't mention I'd been promoted to manager, didn't mention Stella's or the house cleaning. How nice, Catherine said, already looking elsewhere. I suppose that explains why Maya is so grounded despite everything. Despite having a mother who cleaned toilets. Despite coming from the South Side. Despite being black in spaces that still weren't ready for us. The wedding was 3 years ago. The Ashfords paid for most of it, so they made most decisions. My small list of family friends was cut from the guest list. At the reception, I wasn't seated with family, but at a distant table with Tyler's colleagues. When I caught Maya's eye across the room, she looked away. 2 months after the wedding, everything changed. Ms. Bennett, this is Lawrence Chen from Silverton Capital. I have news about your investment in Meditech Solutions. I'd almost forgotten about that investment. 5 years earlier, when Maya was finishing college, I'd been cleaning houses for Elizabeth Morrison. Beth, a retired black executive who'd broken into Fortune 500 leadership in the 1980s. We'd become friends over 3 years of Tuesday cleanings. "Vivian," she said one March day in 2008, "you're the hardest working person I know. My friend's starting a healthcare tech company. I'm investing $20,000. If you could scrape together $5,000, it might give you breathing room someday." I had one thing, my parents' small life insurance policy, $7,200, everything I had. It was terrifying, but I trusted Beth. For 3 years, nothing happened. Meditech grew slowly. I nearly forgot about it, too busy working and planning Maya's wedding. Then came that call in April. "Meditech Solutions is being acquired for $800 million. Your stake is now worth $3,200,000. I dropped the phone. Just dropped it and stood there shaking. I took half in cash, converted half to shares. Over 5 years, my portfolio grew to $8 million. And I told no one. Why? At first, fear. I'd been poor so long I couldn't believe it was real. But then I started noticing how Maya was drifting away. Invitations to Sunday dinner became rare. "We're just so busy, Mom. Maybe next month." When Sophie was born in 2017, I offered to help with childcare. Actually, Catherine's going to watch her 3 days a week. She has more experience, and their house has that perfect nursery. I tested the waters once, mentioning financial concerns. "The clinic might cut hours. I'm worried." "Mom, you should have saved more," Maya said with irritation. "Tyler says everyone needs 6 months' expenses saved. No offer of help, just judgment." Meanwhile, my investments grew. By 2013, I was worth over $8 million. I quietly reshaped my life. Retired from the clinic, found better work managing a friend's business. Sold my apartment, bought a beautiful condo overlooking Lake Michigan. Got a good deal. Started dressing better. Maya barely noticed. 4 years ago, through Beth's network, I heard about a struggling Caribbean resort with potential. After due diligence, I purchased Silver Palm for $12 million, spent $8 million renovating it. I told Maya I was house-sitting for a wealthy friend. "That's nice people trust you like that," she said dismissively, thinking I was free labor. Under my guidance, Silver Palm became one of the Caribbean's top destinations. When it was featured in Luxury Travel magazine, Maya texted about her upcoming trip there. I called Rachel Thompson, my resort manager, at 7 a.m. "Rachel, block out the Orchid Suite December 12th through 23rd under Walsh." My maiden name. "Is everything all right, Ms. Bennett?" "My daughter's family is coming. They don't know I own the resort. I need to observe them." I arrived 3 days before Maya's check-in. The warm Caribbean air, the hibiscus scent, this was my achievement. Rachel met me at the entrance. "Your suite is ready, Ms. Walsh. The Ashford party arrives Thursday." The Orchid Suite had 4 master bedrooms. I'd designed it thinking, Maya, Tyler, Sophie, maybe more grandchildren. Multiple generations finally together. Instead, I was here alone, about to watch my own daughter. "Rachel, ever work 3 jobs just to keep food on the table? Ever have someone you love look at you like you're something to hide?" "No, ma'am." "Then trust me. I need to understand what I'm dealing with." Thursday, December 15th, 11:30 a.m. I sat in the lobby lounge wearing large sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat, watching the reception desk. At 11:42, their shuttle arrived. Catherine emerged first. White linen head to toe, turquoise necklace, perfect hair. Robert followed in pressed khakis. Then Maya, beautiful in a designer sundress, hair in a sleek ponytail. She looked nothing like the girl who'd done homework in the dental clinic break room. Tyler carried 7-year-old Sophie, and Paige Crawford, Catherine's personal assistant. Catherine had brought her assistant on a family vacation, but there wasn't room for me. David Park, our front desk manager, welcomed them professionally. Catherine immediately dominated, asking about restaurants and spa appointments. "We've reserved the Hummingbird Suite," David explained. 3 bedrooms? 3? Maya frowned. "But there are 6 of us. The master has a king for you and your husband. The second has 2 queens for your parents. The third has a queen for your daughter. We can arrange a rollaway for your assistant." Catherine's voice cut like a knife. "Paige has her own room. I specifically requested it." David consulted his tablet. "I apologize, Mrs. Ashford, but we're fully booked. We offered accommodations at our sister property. That's completely unacceptable. Surely you keep rooms available for situations? For VIPs, for important people like the Ashfords. Rachel stepped forward. I'm Rachel Thompson, the resort manager. We're completely booked through the weekend. Robert tried to calm Catherine, but she wasn't finished. She lowered her voice to a stage whisper that carried perfectly to where I sat. This is exactly why I insisted on handling arrangements, Robert. If we'd let Maya's mother recommend places, we'd be at some 2-star motel with plastic furniture and buffet dinners. The words hit like a physical blow, but what came next destroyed me. Maya laughed. My daughter actually laughed. Mom means well, but her idea of luxury is a room with a mini fridge and HBO. Tyler joined in. Remember when she suggested Olive Garden for Sophie's baptism? They all laughed. Even Sophie giggled. Catherine delivered the final cut. God, I'm so glad we didn't bring her on this trip. She'd be taking photos of everything and asking staff about discount days. I sat frozen. Olive Garden, the place I'd suggested because it had been our special treat, where Maya used to get so excited about breadsticks. When had that memory become something mortifying? 7 years of working myself to exhaustion. 7 years of sacrifice. 7 years of putting her first. And this was how she saw me, as an embarrassment, a reminder of a past to forget. Rachel caught my eye from across the lobby. I gave the smallest nod. I was okay, or I would be. That evening I had dinner sent to my suite. I sat on my terrace watching the sunset, and finally let myself feel it all. I cried for years of accumulated hurt I'd been pushing down. Every declined invitation, every brief phone call, every time she'd chosen Catherine over me. Every time she'd made me feel our past was shameful rather than something to be proud of. I thought about James. Would he recognize our daughter? Would he understand how the little girl he'd carried on his shoulders had become a woman ashamed of where she came from? I cried until there were no tears left. Then I washed my face, ordered chamomile tea, and began to plan. I could reveal myself immediately. Surprise! I own this place. The fantasy had vindictive appeal. Their shocked faces, Catherine stammering, Maya's humiliation, but it would be empty. They'd apologize insincerely, learn nothing, and our relationship would be irreparably damaged. No, I needed something more subtle. I needed to observe them further, to test not just Maya's prejudices, but her capacity for change. I needed to know if my daughter was completely lost, or if somewhere underneath the designer clothes and social climbing, the girl I'd raised still existed. The next morning, I called my key staff, Rachel, David, Chef Andre Williams, and Lisa Martinez, who managed activities. I need your help with something unusual. My daughter's family is in Hummingbird Suite. They don't know I own Silver Palm. For now, I want to keep it that way. I explained what I'd overheard, the years of distance, what I was trying to do. What exactly are you hoping to accomplish? Rachel asked carefully. I need to see who Maya really is now. How she treats staff, how she parents Sophie, whether there's anything left of the values I tried to instill. And then? Then I decide whether this relationship can be salvaged or whether it's time to let go. They all agreed to help. Whatever you need, Ms. Bennett. After they left, I stood at my window watching the sun climb over the Caribbean. Maya's family would be waking soon, planning their day, and I would be watching. Not for revenge, but for some sign, any sign, that my daughter was still in there somewhere, that the woman who laughed at Olive Garden jokes wasn't all Maya had become. I thought about Sophie, my granddaughter I barely knew, about the butterfly sanctuary visit scheduled for this afternoon, about the possibility of connection, and I thought about what James would want me to do. He'd want me to fight for our daughter, but he'd also want me to know when to let go. I just wasn't sure which this was yet. So I would watch, I would wait, and I would see if Maya could really see me, even when she thought I was just another service worker to dismiss. The stage was set, the players were in position. Now we'd see what kind of story this would become. Friday morning, Maya booked a beachside yoga session while Tyler took Sophie to the kids' club. Catherine and Robert had an early golf tea time. I'd arranged with our yoga instructor to attend the same class. I arrived early, claiming a mat near the back. Wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses, my silver hair tucked up under a scarf. The Caribbean breeze was gentle, the sound of waves providing natural music. Maya arrived just as class began, claiming a front mat without glancing at the other participants. She moved through the poses with natural grace, something she'd inherited from her father. When the instructor offered a challenging balance pose, Maya executed it perfectly while others wobbled. Despite everything, pride swelled in my chest. Whatever her flaws, she was still my daughter. After class, the instructor approached Maya. "Beautiful practice. I noticed your alignment in Warrior 3. You've obviously done this before." Maya beamed. "Thanks. I try to maintain my practice at home, but it's hard with a 7-year-old. "I understand. Actually, we're having a special sunset session tomorrow for advanced practitioners, by invitation only, on the private beach. Would you be interested?" "Absolutely." The instructor glanced in my direction. "Great. This lovely lady will be joining us as well. She's one of our regular guests." Maya finally looked toward me, offering a polite nod, the kind you give strangers at a resort. No recognition. She didn't see me. Her own mother, sitting 15 feet away. "Perfect," Maya replied, already turning to gather her things. I sat there after she left, watching the ocean. My own daughter hadn't recognized me, because she wasn't looking for me, because in her world, I didn't belong in places like this. That afternoon, Sophie was enrolled in the Junior Naturalist program at our butterfly sanctuary, one of my favorite additions to the resort. I'd designed it 3 years ago, wanting children to have meaningful experiences with nature beyond the pool. Lisa Martinez, our activities director, introduced me to the group of 6 children as Ms. Bennett, a visiting butterfly expert volunteering with our program. Sophie was there, bright-eyed and curious, while Maya dropped her off. "This is Ms. Bennett," Lisa said. "She knows everything about butterflies." Sophie regarded me solemnly. "Do you really know everything?" I crouched to her level, meeting her serious gaze, James's eyes looking back at me through my granddaughter. "Not everything. Butterflies still have many secrets. That's what makes studying them so exciting." Sophie considered this, then nodded approvingly. "I like that answer better than when adults pretend to know everything." Maya checked her watch. "Honey, I need to go. Grandma Catherine's waiting for our spa appointment." "Okay," Sophie replied, already moving toward the display of chrysalises, eager for her mother to leave so the real activities could begin. Maya glanced at me with vague politeness, the same polite acknowledgement you give any service worker. "Nice to meet you." She didn't recognize me. Not with my hair different, glasses on, focused on her busy schedule rather than really seeing the person in front of her. For the next hour, I watched Sophie absorb information like a sponge. She asked thoughtful questions, helped younger children, and handled the butterflies with gentle care. "You're doing that perfectly," I told her as she carefully held a feeding station. "Very gentle." "I remembered from yesterday," she said proudly. "You have to be super careful with their wings." "That's right. Their wings are covered with tiny scales. If you touch them too much, they can't fly properly." A painted lady butterfly landed on Sophie's sponge, its proboscis unfurling to drink. "Look," she whispered excitedly. "It's using its straw." I laughed softly. "That's exactly what it looks like. The scientific name is proboscis, but straw is much more fun." We worked side by side. Gradually, I began asking about her life, school, hobbies, favorite books. "I like to draw," she told me. "Mostly animals and plants. My art teacher says I have a good eye for details." "That's a wonderful skill for a scientist. Observation is the foundation of all discovery." She frowned slightly. "Grandma Catherine says art isn't practical. She wants me to focus on math and coding." "Math and coding are valuable," I said carefully. "But art teaches different skills: creativity, perception, patience." Leonardo da Vinci drew detailed sketches of birds while studying flight. Many people think his observations of nature helped him design his flying machines. Sophie's eyes widened. "Really? We learned about him in school." "Really," she nodded decisively. "I'm going to tell Grandma Catherine that." The morning passed quickly. Soon parents began arriving for pickup. Maya appeared precisely at noon, looking relaxed after her spa treatment. "How was butterfly school?" "Amazing! I helped feed a rare butterfly, and Miss Bennett taught me about Leonardo da Vinci and how art and science go together." Maya finally looked at me properly, her brow furrowing slightly, trying to place me. "Thank you for working with the children," she said politely. "Sophie seems to have had a wonderful time. She's exceptionally bright, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. You must be very proud. Something in my voice must have triggered her memory. She suddenly stiffened, recognition dawning. Mom? I smiled calmly. Hello again, Maya. Sophie looked between us in confusion. Mom, is Miss Bennett your mom? Is she my grandma? Maya's expression cycled rapidly through shock, embarrassment, and anger. What are you doing? Are you following Sophie now? I volunteer with the butterfly program, I explained, keeping my voice light for Sophie's benefit. I mentioned I was a regular here. You never said you worked with butterflies. There's a lot you don't know about me these days, Maya. Sophie tugged at Maya's hand. Is Miss Bennett really your mom? Is she my grandma? Maya opened and closed her mouth, clearly unsure how to respond. I crouched down to Sophie's level. Yes, I am your grandmother, Sophie, but a different one than Grandma Ashford. I'm your mom's mom. Sophie's face lit up. I have 3 grandmas? That's so cool. Why didn't I know about you before? The innocent question hung in the air between Maya and me, loaded with years of complicated history. We don't see each other very often, I said simply, but I'm very happy to meet you properly now. Can you come to dinner with us? Sophie asked. Maya paled. Sophie, we already have plans with Grandma and Grandpa Ashford. But this is my grandma too. Sophie's voice rose. Why can't she come? Don't you like your mom? Other parents were beginning to notice the tension, glancing curiously in our direction. Maya forced a tight smile. Of course I like my mom. It's just complicated, honey. Adult things. Actually, I interjected smoothly, I have my own dinner plans tonight, but maybe another time. Sophie looked disappointed. Promise? I promise we'll see each other again. Maya stood, professional mask back in place. Thank you for volunteering with the program. Sophie, say goodbye. We need to meet Grandma and Grandpa for lunch. Bye, Miss Bennett. I mean Grandma, Sophie said, giving me an impulsive hug around the waist. I watched them go, Sophie turning to wave until they disappeared around a corner. Rachel appeared beside me. That looked intense. She recognized me, but only after spending an hour with Sophie, only after I'd been standing right in front of her. What now? Now, I said. It's time for Phase 3. That afternoon, I called Rachel to my suite. I want to host a private dinner tomorrow night. Beachfront Pavilion. 7 people. The Ashford party plus me. Rachel's eyebrows rose. You're revealing yourself? It's time they know who I am. All of it. I handed her a handwritten menu. Ask Chef Andre to prepare these dishes. They're all Maya's childhood favorites, reimagined with his signature sophistication. Rachel scanned the list. Grilled cheese with truffle oil and aged cheddar, lobster mac and cheese, gourmet chicken tenders with house-made sauces, butterfly-themed cake for dessert. This is quite different from our usual pavilion menu. I know, and for the invitation, use the resort's embossed stationery. Address it to the entire party as a special dinner hosted by the owner. Don't mention me by name. Timing? Deliver it at 4 p.m., dinner at 7. That gives them enough time to get ready, but not enough to create elaborate excuses. Bennett, Rachel said carefully, are you expecting trouble? I'm expecting honesty, I replied. For better or worse. At 6:45 Saturday evening, I arrived at the beachfront pavilion. The open-air structure had been transformed with hundreds of candles and arrangements of white orchids. The round table was set with our finest linens and crystal. I wore a silk maxi dress in deep teal that brought out the green in my eyes, paired with simple but expensive jewelry. Professional, elegant, confident. The image of a successful businesswoman, not a struggling former service worker. At precisely 7:01, I heard voices approaching. This must be some mistake, Catherine was saying. Why would the owner invite us specifically? Perhaps they do this for all guests, Robert suggested. A marketing gimmick. The note said private dinner for our party only, Maya replied. Maybe it's because of the issue with Paige's room. Some kind of apology. They entered the pavilion, falling silent as they took in the elegant setting. Welcome, the pavilion manager greeted them warmly. Your host is already seated. I remained facing the ocean, listening as they approached. When I sensed they were just behind me, I slowly turned in my chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad you could join me. The tableau of shock before me was almost cinematic. Catherine froze mid-step, her mouth forming a perfect O. Robert's eyebrows shot toward his hairline. Tyler looked like he might drop his champagne glass. Maya went deathly pale, her hand instinctively reaching for Sophie's shoulder. Only Sophie seemed unfazed. "Miss Bennet, Grandma, you're having dinner with us after all." "Yes, sweetheart," I smiled at her. "I thought it would be nice for all of us to have dinner together. Please, everyone, take your seats." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Catherine found her voice. "What is the meaning of this? We were told we'd be dining with the resort owner." "You are," I replied calmly, gesturing to the chairs. "Please sit down. The first course will be served momentarily." "Mom," Maya whispered, her voice shaking. "What are you talking about?" I met her eyes directly. "I'm Vivian Elizabeth Bennet, majority owner of Silver Palm Resort and 11 other properties in my hospitality group." The pavilion manager stepped forward smoothly. "Mrs. Ashford, I assure you, Miss Bennet is indeed the owner of Silver Palm Resort." Catherine finally sank into her chair, eyeing me with open suspicion. The others sat mechanically. Servers appeared with the first course, chilled cucumber gazpacho with king crab. "Mom," Maya pressed, leaning toward me, her voice tight with emotion. "How is this possible?" "We'll get to that," I said. "But first, let's enjoy dinner. I've asked Chef Andre to prepare some special dishes tonight." Tyler suddenly snapped his fingers. "Wait, Reynolds Hospitality Group. I read about them in Forbes last year. Boutique luxury properties, exceptional satisfaction ratings, privately held." He stared at me with new interest. "That's you?" "That's me?" Maya barely touched her soup, staring at me. "But how? When did this happen?" I took a deliberate bite of gazpacho, savoring it. "Do you remember Beth Morrison? I used to clean her house every Tuesday." Maya nodded slowly. "The retired executive with the big house?" "Beth suggested I invest in a tech startup about 9 years ago. I put in the insurance money from my parents. $7,200. Everything I had saved. When the company was acquired 3 years later, that investment was worth $3 million. I reinvested wisely. Eventually, I purchased my first resort property 4 years ago. Silver Palm was my second acquisition." Catherine put down her fork with a clatter. "This is preposterous. If you had that kind of money, why continue to live like you did? Why clean houses and work at that clinic?" "I didn't need those jobs for income, but I valued the structure they provided, and I wanted to see something." "See what?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The servers brought the second course, the reimagined grilled cheese with arugula salad. "I wanted to see how you really viewed me, Maya. Not when you were being polite on phone calls, but when you thought I wasn't watching." I pulled out my phone, pulling up a video file. The resort has security cameras in all public areas, including the reception desk. I played the footage. No sound, but the images were clear. Catherine at check-in, her dismissive gestures, Maya laughing, Tyler joining in. "I heard Catherine's comment about 2-star motels with plastic furniture," I said quietly. "I heard you laugh and say my idea of luxury is a room with a mini-fridge and HBO. I heard Tyler's joke about Olive Garden, and I heard you say, 'God, I'm so glad we didn't bring her on this trip. She'd be asking staff about discount days.'" The silence was deafening. Maya's face crumbled. "Mom, Sophie's small voice cut through the tension. "Is that why you said I couldn't do butterfly school? Because Grandma Catherine wouldn't like it?" The child's directness was impossible to deflect. "Sophie," Catherine began, "adults sometimes—" "No," I said firmly but gently. "Sophie asked a fair question. Maya, is that why?" Maya looked at her plate, tears streaming down her face. She nodded. The servers brought the main course, gourmet chicken tenders for Sophie, perfectly seared sea bass for the adults. 9 years, Mom," Maya finally said, looking up at me. 9 years of being wealthy and never saying a word. Why keep it secret from me? At first it was caution. I'd been poor so long I needed to believe the money was real. But then I started to see how you viewed me. How you'd become embarrassed by your background, by the work I'd done. When you suggested I not mention the diner or housekeeping to Catherine and Robert, when you started excluding me from family events, when you seated me at the distant relatives' table at your wedding, I realized something had changed. "That's not fair," Maya protested weakly. Isn't it? When was the last time you asked me a meaningful question about my life? When did you last invite me to your home without Catherine orchestrating the entire visit? Catherine cleared her throat loudly. This is all very dramatic, Vivian, but families grow apart. It's natural for Maya to gravitate toward her husband's family, especially given certain social considerations. My voice hardened. Social considerations? Please elaborate on these social considerations that made it necessary for Maya to distance herself from her own mother. Catherine looked uncomfortable. I simply meant that as Maya and Tyler established themselves in certain circles, they needed to present a unified front. I'm not a family complication, Catherine. I'm Maya's mother, the woman who worked 18-hour days to afford her dance lessons and SAT prep, who cheered at every school play and graduation. That history doesn't disappear because it's inconvenient for your country club membership. Robert shifted. Now, Vivian, there's no need to be emotional. I'm not being emotional, Robert. I'm being truthful. You and Catherine have systematically encouraged Maya to distance herself from me and the values I raised her with. You've treated me with condescension from the moment we met, and you've taught Maya to do the same. Maya stared at her plate. That's not fair, Mom. I make my own decisions. Do you? Let's review this vacation. Who decided on Silver Palm? Who created the itinerary? Who determined there wasn't room for me? Maya didn't answer. Her silence was confirmation enough. Dessert arrived, a magnificent butterfly-themed cake. Sophie clapped her hands in delight. I didn't arrange this dinner to embarrass anyone, I said, addressing the table. I organized it because I believe in second chances. Despite everything, Maya, you're still my daughter, and I love you. Sophie is my granddaughter, and I've missed too much of her life already. I want us to try again, to build a relationship based on genuine respect and affection, not social expectations or outdated assumptions. Tyler spoke up, surprising everyone. For what it's worth, Vivian, I think we've all misjudged the situation. Maybe Maya and I should reconsider some things. It wasn't much, but it was something. What happens now? Maya asked, her voice small. That's up to you, I replied. Think about what kind of relationship you want us to have going forward, and what kind of example you want to set for Sophie about family, loyalty, and authenticity. The next morning, I received a text from Maya at 7 a.m. Can we talk, just us, before butterfly school? We met at sunrise on a private beach area. The early morning light was golden, the ocean waves gentle. I didn't sleep much last night, Maya said. Neither did I. A long pause. I'm ashamed, Mom, of how I've treated you, of who I've become. Then change. It's not too late. Catherine will make my life hell. Perhaps, but whose life is it, Maya? Yours or Catherine C's? She took a shaky breath. We're cutting the vacation short, leaving tomorrow. My heart sank. Because of last night? Partly. Catherine is not handling the revelations well, but that's not the only reason. She hesitated. Tyler and I talked. We've decided to take Sophie to my old neighborhood for a few days, just the three of us. I want to show her where I grew up, the library where you took me, the park where we had picnics, Stella's diner where you worked. I felt tears pricking my eyes. Really? Maya nodded. Sophie knows almost nothing about my childhood, about your sacrifices, about who we were before the Ashfords. That needs to change. We embraced, a genuine hug that lasted longer than politeness required. Thank you for giving me another chance, Maya whispered. Always, I replied simply. That afternoon, as Catherine and Robert checked out a day early, Catherine's rigid posture speaking volumes, I watched from a discreet distance. She had lost control, and she knew it. But in that loss lay possibility. I returned to my suite and found an envelope that had been slipped under my door. Inside was a child's drawing, a butterfly garden with two stick figures holding hands, one tall with silver hair, one small with a ponytail. Across the bottom in careful printing, to my other grandma from Sophie. I placed the drawing on my nightstand. Perhaps there was still a chance to rebuild what had been broken, not through wealth or its absence, but through honesty and love. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for tonight, I had accomplished what I set out to do. I had revealed the truth and opened a door to reconciliation. Whether Maya would walk through that door remained to be seen, but at least now she knew it was there. That same afternoon, At exactly 3 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Catherine Ashford requesting urgent meeting with resort owner. Says it's about family situation. How should I respond? I showed the message to Maya, who was still sitting with me on the beach. She groaned. She must have seen us leave together this morning. I told her I was going shopping in the village. Do you want me to meet with her? Maya considered this, then nodded firmly. Yes, this needs to end one way or another, but I'm coming with you. At 3 o'clock sharp, Maya and I walked into my resort office together. Catherine and Robert were already seated, Catherine perched on the edge of her chair like a bird ready for flight. Finally, Catherine said as we entered, this situation has become completely untenable, and I demand— Catherine, Robert cautioned, placing a hand on her arm. Let's discuss this civilly. I took my seat behind the desk. Maya positioned herself beside me, not with her in-laws. That symbolic choice wasn't lost on anyone in the room. What can I help you with, Catherine? I asked calmly. You can explain why you've orchestrated this entire charade, pretending to be some struggling retiree when all along you were— this. She waved her hand dismissively at my office surroundings. I never pretended anything. I simply chose not to broadcast my financial situation. A right everyone enjoys, I believe. And then you ambushed us at dinner, humiliated us in front of the staff. Mom, Maya interrupted firmly. That's enough. Catherine turned to her, shocked. Excuse me? I said that's enough. Mom didn't humiliate anyone. She revealed a truth we should have known years ago if we'd bothered to take any interest in her life. Whose side are you on? Catherine demanded. This isn't about sides, Maya said, her voice steady. It's about family. My family. Including my mother, whom I've treated shamefully for years while you encouraged it every step of the way. Robert cleared his throat. Now, Maya, that's not entirely fair. We've always wanted what's best for you and Tyler. What's best for us? Maya challenged. Or what looks best to your country club friends? Because I'm starting to think those aren't the same thing. Catherine's face flushed red. After everything we've done for you, the introductions, the opportunities, the guidance, this is how you repay us? By turning on us the moment your mother waves her newfound money in your face? Maya stood suddenly, her hands clenched at her sides. Her voice was quiet but carried the weight of years of suppressed feelings. Stop it. Just stop. Do you hear yourself? You've spent years convincing me that my mother wasn't good enough because she worked with her hands, because she shopped at discount stores, because she couldn't afford to join your precious country club. And now you're suggesting I'm only reconnecting with her because she has money? Maya's voice rose with each sentence. That says far more about your values than mine. Catherine stared at Maya as if seeing a stranger. Maya, you can't possibly— Mom and I have a lot to work through, Maya continued. Years of distance and misunderstandings, but we're going to do that work together. And if that doesn't fit into your vision of the perfect family, that's your problem, not ours. The room fell into heavy silence. Finally, Catherine spoke, her voice eerily controlled. I see we've wasted our time here, Robert. We're leaving. Now. Catherine, Robert began. Now, Robert. He sighed heavily but stood. As they moved toward the door, Robert turned back. We'll expect an explanation for this. Change of heart, Maya. When you've had time to think clearly again. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years, Maya replied. And we'll talk when I get back from showing Sophie where I grew up, where Mom raised me on her own with more love and integrity than I've shown her in return. Catherine's mouth thinned to a hard line. She said nothing more, sweeping from the room with Robert following, casting an apologetic backward glance. When the door closed, Maya sank back into her chair, trembling slightly. Well, she said with a shaky laugh. That happened. Are you okay? I asked gently. Not really. I've never spoken to them like that before. Catherine will make Tyler's life miserable at the office. Perhaps. But sometimes standing up for what's right comes with consequences. I know. She took a deep breath. And it's worth it. I haven't felt this authentic in years. I reached across the desk and squeezed her hand. I'm proud of you, Maya. Not because you defended me, though I appreciate that, but because you defended yourself, your values, your right to decide what kind of life you want. Tears filled her eyes. I've missed that person, the real me. She's still there, I assured her. A little buried, perhaps, but still there. Maya wiped her eyes and smiled. So, about that butterfly sanctuary visit tonight, I was thinking, could it be just the three of us? You, me, and Sophie? My heart swelled. I'd love that more than anything. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, the three of us walked the winding path to the butterfly sanctuary. Sophie skipped ahead, her excitement palpable. Lisa Martinez had prepared something special at my request. Soft golden lanterns illuminated the pathways without disturbing the butterflies preparing to roost. In the evening glow, the sanctuary took on an enchanted quality. "This is magical," Sophie whispered as we entered. "Like a fairy garden." Indeed it was. Butterflies perched with wings folded on broad leaves and delicate branches. A few late-active species still fluttered among the flowers, their colors intensified in the warm light. I led them to a special section, a small table set with a child-sized tea service and butterfly-shaped cookies, surrounded by potted plants chosen specifically to attract butterflies. "A real butterfly tea party?" Sophie gasped. "Just like in my storybook." We sat together, drinking fruit-infused water from tiny teacups, watching as the day creatures settled and the night creatures began to stir. I pointed out a large moth emerging from its cocoon, wings slowly unfurling in the gentle air. "Different from butterflies," I explained, "but just as beautiful in their own way. Nature offers us endless variation, endless possibilities." Maya spoke softly, watching her daughter's rapt attention. "Just like people, beautiful in different ways." As the light continued to fade, Sophie suddenly turned to Maya with the directness only children possess. "Mom, why didn't you want Grandma Vivian to come on vacation with us?" Maya looked at me, then back at Sophie. She didn't deflect or make excuses. She simply told the truth. "Because I was ashamed, sweetheart. Ashamed of where I came from. Ashamed that Grandma Vivian had to work so hard when I was growing up. I thought if Grandma Catherine's family didn't know about all that, they might accept me more." "But why would you be ashamed?" Sophie asked, genuinely confused. "Grandma Vivian worked hard because she loved you. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to be proud of. From the mouths of babes." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You're absolutely right, Sophie. It is something to be proud of. And I forgot that for a while, but I'm going to remember it now." Sophie thought about this, then nodded with satisfaction. She turned to me. "Grandma Vivian, will you teach me more about butterflies? Like, can I come back here sometime?" "Anytime you want," I promised. "My door is always open. Always." As darkness fell completely, we made our way back through the sanctuary. Sophie, exhausted from the day's emotions and activities, walked between us, holding both our hands. "This is nice," she said sleepily. "Having two grandmas who love me. I don't want to choose. I want both." "You don't have to choose, sweetheart," Maya assured her. "You can love both of us, and we both love you." At the resort entrance, Maya lingered after Tyler collected a yawning Sophie. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not giving up on me, for this chance to start over. There's nothing to thank me for, Maya. You're my daughter. I never stopped loving you, even when it hurt. I don't deserve that. Love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing. Every day we choose, and I choose you. I always have." We embraced, a long, genuine hug that felt like coming home. "This isn't an ending," Maya whispered. "No," I agreed. "It's a beginning." Sunday morning dawned clear and bright. I met Maya, Tyler, and Sophie for breakfast on my private terrace, away from any remaining tension with the Ashfords who had already checked out. Sophie was bubbling with excitement about their upcoming trip to Chicago to see where Maya grew up. Tyler seemed more relaxed than I'd seen him all week, as if a weight had been lifted. "I can't believe we're going to see your old apartment, Mom," Sophie said. "And the diner where Grandma Vivian worked, and the park." Maya smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. "It's not fancy, Sophie. It's not like Grandma Catherine's neighborhood." "I don't care about fancy," Sophie declared. "I want to see where you're from, where our family is from." Tyler spoke up. "I have to admit, Vivian, I'm looking forward to it too. I realize now that I never really knew Maya's full story. I only knew the version the Ashfords approved of." "And you're okay with leaving your parents' firm?" I asked carefully. Actually, I've been thinking about that for a while, Tyler admitted. Working for Robert means constantly proving myself while being under his thumb. A college friend has been asking me to join his startup. The pay's less, but it's mine. I think it's time. I looked at Maya, who nodded. We've talked about it. It's going to be tight financially for a while, but you'll figure it out together, I finished, just like families do. Before they left, I handed Maya a small envelope. What's this? She asked. The name and number of my financial advisor. Not because I think you need my money, you don't, but because I learned something valuable about building wealth, and I'd like you to have that knowledge. Talk to him about setting up college funds for Sophie, about investments, about building something that lasts. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I don't know what to say. Say you'll call me every week. Real calls, not 12-minute drive-bys. Say you'll bring Sophie to visit. Say we'll have Sunday dinners again. At your place, my place, wherever. Say we'll be a family again. I promise, Maya said, embracing me tightly. All of it, I promise. Sophie hugged me around the waist. Bye, Grandma Vivian. Thank you for the butterflies, and the tea party, and everything. Thank you, sweetheart, for reminding me why all of this matters. I watched their car disappear down the winding drive, my heart both heavy and light. Heavy with years of hurt that would take time to fully heal. Light with the possibility of what came next. Rachel appeared beside me. How are you feeling, Ms. Bennett? Hopeful, I said simply. For the first time in years, I'm hopeful. It was a Sunday in June when everything came together. I stood in the kitchen of my condo, checking on the pot of collard greens simmering on the stove. My grandmother's recipe, the one I used to make when Maya was little. The cornbread was cooling on the counter. The fried chicken was keeping warm in the oven. Sunday dinner, a tradition we'd started again 2 months ago, rotating between Maya's house and mine. The doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to answer it. Maya, Tyler, and Sophie stood there, Sophie holding a drawing she'd made. Another butterfly, this one labeled Monarch, can migrate 3,000 miles. Grandma Vivian, I learned a new butterfly fact. Tell me everything, I said, ushering them in. As we gathered around the dining table, the one I'd bought specifically to seat my whole family, I looked at the faces around me. Maya, more relaxed than I'd seen her in years, wearing jeans and a simple blouse instead of designer everything. Tyler, animated as he talked about his new job at the startup. Sophie, explaining her butterfly research with scientific precision. The doorbell rang again. Maya got up to answer it. When she returned, she wasn't alone. Catherine and Robert stood awkwardly in the doorway. My surprise must have shown on my face because Maya quickly explained. I invited them, Mom. I hope that's okay. We've been talking, working through some things. It's not perfect, and it probably never will be, but family is complicated, Catherine finished quietly. She looked at me directly. Vivian, I owe you an apology. Several apologies, actually. I treated you abominably, and I encouraged Maya to do the same. I was wrong. I studied her face. The apology seemed genuine, if uncomfortable. Robert nodded in agreement. I appreciate that, Catherine, I said carefully. Would you like to join us for dinner? We don't want to intrude. You're not intruding. There's plenty of food, and Sophie would probably like both her grandmothers here. Sophie beamed. Yes, 3 grandmas at one dinner. That's so cool. It wasn't perfect. Catherine clearly wasn't comfortable in my modest condo, and there were moments of awkward silence. Robert tried too hard to be jovial, but we got through the meal, and by dessert, Sophie's favorite chocolate cake, something had shifted. The collard greens were excellent, Catherine said as she helped clear plates. Would you share the recipe? I looked at her in surprise. Catherine Ashford, who probably hadn't cooked a meal in decades, was asking for my recipe? Of course, I said. It was my grandmother's. She brought it with her when she came north during the Great Migration. It's a piece of our history. I'd like to learn more about that history, Catherine said quietly. If you're willing to share it. Later, after everyone had left, I stood at my window overlooking Lake Michigan. The city lights reflected off the water, creating paths of gold across the darkness. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Thank you for giving her a chance. I know it wasn't easy. Love you, Mom. I texted back. Love you too, baby girl. Always have, always will. Another text, this time from Tyler. Thank you, Vivian, for everything. You've taught me what real strength looks like. And finally, a voice message from Sophie. Grandma Vivian, I forgot to tell you, I'm doing my school project on butterflies and on strong women in my family. That means you. Can I interview you next weekend? I smiled, saved the message, and went to my bedroom. On my nightstand sat Sophie's drawings, a collection now, dozens of them, charting her growing artistic skill and our growing relationship. 3 weeks later, I was back at Silver Palm Resort for my quarterly inspection. I sat on the terrace of the Orchid Suite, watching the sunset paint the sky, and reflected on everything that had happened. A year ago, I'd sat in this exact spot, heartbroken by exclusion, planning my observation mission. I'd been angry, hurt, determined to prove something. Now I understood that I'd been trying to prove the wrong thing. I hadn't needed to prove I was wealthy. I hadn't needed to prove I belonged in places like this. I hadn't needed to prove anything to Catherine or Robert or even to Maya. What I'd needed, what we'd all needed, was honesty. Honest about where we came from. Honest about what we valued. Honest about who we wanted to be. I thought about my life, all 62 years of it. The poverty and the struggle. The 3 jobs and the raw hands. The sacrifice and the fear. And yes, the eventual wealth and success. But the wealth wasn't the point of the story. It was just a plot twist. The point was the love that had driven everything. The love that made me work 3 jobs. The love that made me risk my last $7,000. The love that made me buy a resort with a 4-bedroom penthouse, hoping someday my family would fill it. The love that had waited patiently for my daughter to find her way back home. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. I'd been thinking about writing this down. Not for publication, but for Sophie. For when she was older and wanted to understand her family's story. I began to type. I learned that wealth doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you are. I learned that sometimes the people who love you most can hurt you deepest, not from malice, but from fear and insecurity. I learned that shame is a poison that seeps through generations, but so is courage. I learned that my daughter had to lose herself for a while to understand who she really wanted to be. I learned that forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's a daily practice, like yoga or prayer. I learned that my granddaughter was wiser at 7 than I'd been at 60. I learned that butterflies aren't just beautiful. They're a perfect metaphor for transformation. You have to struggle to emerge from the chrysalis. If someone helps you, if they make it too easy, your wings never develop the strength you need to fly. Maya had to struggle through her own chrysalis. I couldn't do it for her. I learned that Catherine Ashford wasn't evil. She was scared. Scared of losing control. Scared of change. Scared of anything that didn't fit into her carefully constructed world. Fear makes people cruel. I learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in proving you're right. It's in choosing peace over being right. I learned that at 62, after 3 years of widowhood and decades of struggle, I still had so much life left to live. So many Sunday dinners. So many butterfly lessons. So many chances to love and be loved. Most importantly, I learned that home isn't a place. It's not a resort in the Caribbean or a condo overlooking Lake Michigan or a brownstone in Lincoln Park. Home is my daughter's laugh when she's truly relaxed. Home is my granddaughter's hand in mine as we walk through a garden. Home is the moment when someone finally sees you, really sees you, and chooses to love what they see. That's the only wealth that matters. That's the only luxury worth having. Everything else is just window dressing. I saved the note and looked out at the ocean. Tomorrow, Rachel and I would review operations. Next week, I'd fly back to Chicago for Sunday dinner. Next month, Sophie's school project presentation where I was apparently the guest of honor. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Sophie wants to know if you can teach her to make Grandma's collard greens recipe. She wants to bring it to school for Cultural Heritage Day. I told her yes, but wanted to check with you first. I smiled and typed back. Of course. This Saturday? Tell her to bring a notebook. There are stories that go with every ingredient. Another text. She's screaming with excitement. Fair warning. Also, Tyler and I have been talking. We'd like to bring Sophie to Silver Palm this Christmas. All of us, including Catherine and Robert, if that's okay. A fresh start. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. A year ago, this invitation would have felt like victory. proof that I'd won. Now it just felt like family. "It's more than okay," I typed. "It's perfect. The Orchid Suite has 4 bedrooms, remember? Plenty of room for everyone." That night I dreamed of butterflies. Thousands of them, all different colors and patterns, filling the sky above Silver Palm Resort. Some were emerging from chrysalises, wings still damp and crumpled. Others were taking their first flights, uncertain but determined. Still others soared with confidence, their wings catching the light. Maya was there, and Sophie, and even Catherine. All of us standing in the butterfly garden, watching the transformations. In the dream, Sophie turned to me and asked, "Which butterfly are you, Grandma Vivian?" I looked up at the kaleidoscope of wings above us and smiled. "I'm all of them, sweetheart. We all are. We're always emerging, always learning to fly, always transforming into something new." Even at 62? Especially at 62. When I woke, the sun was rising over the Caribbean, painting the sky in shades of hope. I made my coffee and sat on my terrace, watching the ocean and thinking about the year ahead. There would be challenges. Catherine and I would never be best friends. The years of hurt between Maya and me wouldn't heal overnight. Tyler's new career would have struggles. Sophie would face her own challenges growing up between 2 very different worlds. But we would face them together. As a family. Imperfect, complicated, but real. I thought about James, wherever he was. I hoped he was proud of what I'd built. Not the resorts or the money, but the bridge I'd built back to our daughter. "We did okay, baby," I whispered to the wind. Our girl found her way home. The ocean whispered back, endless and patient, a reminder that some things, love, family, transformation, are as eternal and powerful as the tides. I finished my coffee and went inside to start my day. There was work to do. There always was. But now, finally, there was also joy.